What's up, guys? Today we are breaking down week 23 of fantasy hockey. What you do with your team in terms of who you add and who you drop is going to be very crucial to your success this week, and I'm here to help you with that today. We are going to be breaking down the entire week in terms of which teams have the best and the worst schedules, and also I'm going to be giving you guys advice on which streamers to add to help you win your matchup. So let's dive right into it. To start it off, I'm going to be talking about teams that have the most off nights this week, and this is very important for you guys because Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday are very heavy nights this week. Teams like Colorado, as you can see, it's the #1 team on this list, is going to be very beneficial for helping you maximize your games. I've looked at the schedules for some of the teams in my league, and they have to sit like 3 or 4 guys on those heavy nights. So if your team is like that, you definitely want to drop some players and add players from these teams if they are available. So let's start it off with the Colorado Avalanche. They have 4 games this week and all of them are off nights. As you can see here, they also have a very easy schedule. So if you have Colorado players on your team, that is going to be super beneficial for you this week. And if they are sitting on the market, you definitely want to add them. Then we have the Arizona Coyotes with 4 games and 3 off nights, which is very good if you're looking at the overall schedule this week. So you definitely want to look at adding Arizona players, and I'm sure a lot of them are going to be available on your market. They don't have the easiest schedule, but still, in terms of maximizing your games, they are going to help you out a lot. Then we have the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Chicago Blackhawks. They don't have the easiest schedules, but they both have 4 games and 2 off nights, so pretty good for maximizing your schedule. Then rounding out this list, we have the Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings. Yes, they only have 3 games, but they both have 2 off nights. And as you can see here, these 6 teams right here are the only teams that have 2 or more off nights this week. The rest do not. So definitely beneficial to have players on these teams. The Oilers have a very easy schedule with the 3.14 opponent goals against average. They have the best offense in the league, so I expect them to put up a lot of goals this week. And the Kings have a decent schedule as well. So I'll be talking about players from these teams a little bit later in the streamers list. Then we have teams with 4 games, but only 1 off night. So, I mean, it's good that they have 4 games, but if you add a player from any of these teams, you probably can't fit them into your lineup, or you're going to have to sit someone in favor of them. But if you happen to have a schedule this week where you have a lot of players on those off nights, then you might be able to add players from these teams, but I will go into that a little bit later. Moving on, we have the teams with the least amount of games this week. Every team has at least 3 games, so that is good, but there's a lot of them that have absolutely no off nights. They play on those heavy nights, Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Not going to be good in terms of maximizing your schedule. I rank them in terms of their opponent goals against average, and I will read them off now. We have the Rangers, the Kraken, and the Canadian, who have a really poor opponent goals against average. I think the Rangers play Carolina twice, so it's going to be tough for them to put up goals. Personally, I dropped Tarasenko and I added someone that had a better schedule this week, but it's up to you whether you want to hold on to players from these teams. Then we have the Lightning, the Flyers, the Ducks, and the Minnesota Wild. Their opponents are okay, but like I said, 3 games and no off nights is going to be tough in terms of adding players from these teams. And then we have the Knights, the Stars, the Capitals, and the Jets. Although they have a bad schedule for maximizing your games, they have really easy opponents this week, so you might want to hold on to players from these teams in hopes that they have some big nights this week. We will see what happens. Now, the teams with the best opponent record this week, we have #1, the Washington Capitals, with a .444 opponent record. This is very good for their goalies, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit because Darcy Kemper left practice with an injury. I don't know the severity of his injury, but this could mean that Charlie Lindgren is going to be the starter for these games. If that's the case, you definitely want to add Lindgren. And then we have the Avalanche, the Red Wings, the Oilers, and the Jets. A guy like Gorgiev, who has 4 off nights, is going to be a monster this week. A guy like Ville Husso, Stuart Skinner, Connor Hellebuck, I think these guys are going to do really good. Now, for the teams with the worst opponent records, the #1 team is the Carolina Hurricanes. Yes, they have 4 games, but they have a .690 opponent record. They play the Rangers twice, and then they play the Leafs and the Bruins. So it is going to be tough for them to squeeze out a lot of wins and score a lot of goals. So not sure how much I like Carolina Hurricanes players, and especially their goaltenders. A guy like Freddie Anderson, who's not getting the volume that you want to see from him, might struggle this week. I don't know if he's worth holding on to. That's your decision. And then we have the Senators, who have Matt Sogard in net. I don't think he is going to be very good this week. The Senators have a really tough remaining schedule, really tough road ahead, so I don't think they are going to make it to the playoffs. And then we have the Rangers. Like I said, they play Carolina twice. It is going to be tough, but you're not going to drop a guy like Shesterkin. You're just going to have to ride that out. And then we have the Coyotes and the Sabres, a guy like Ingram and Vejmelka, and then the Sabres goalies, UPL, Anderson, and Comrie. Probably not good holds this week. They play some really tough opponents. All right, for the highest opponent goals against average, these teams are playing against teams that let in a lot of goals. If you have players on these teams, then you are probably going to do pretty good this week. The number 1 team is the Winnipeg Jets with an absurd 3.45 opponent goals against average. They are definitely going to do very good this week. If you have players on this team, I expect that you're going to put up a lot of fantasy points. Then we have the Capitals, the Blues, the Flames, and the Avalanche. I will be talking about players from these teams in a little bit who might help you win your fantasy week. Then for the teams with the lowest opponent goals against average, I just talked about Carolina. They have 4 games, but they have a 2.51 opponent goals against average. The Hurricanes can score a lot of goals. They are one of the best teams in the league, but the fact is they are not going to perform how they usually do. So it might be tough to have players from this team on your fantasy team. And then we have the Sabres, who do score a lot of goals, but still it is going to be an underperformance from them. And then the Senators, the Rangers, and the Kraken. You probably don't want to stream players from these teams this week, and you might want to drop some players on these teams as well if you feel like it's necessary. Now, the winners for this week, we have any Colorado Avalanche players. These are guys that might be available on your market: Nichushkin, Compher, Rodriguez, Taves, Gerard, Byram. But if you have any Colorado Avalanche players currently on your team, like Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, Alexander Georgiev, you are probably going to have a fantastic week. They play Chicago Monday, Pittsburgh Wednesday, Arizona Friday, and then Arizona again on Sunday. So they should be scoring a lot of goals and racking up a lot of fantasy points. Then another potential week winner is Charlie Lindgren of the Washington Capitals. And this is only if Darcy Kemper is not healthy. We don't know the severity of his injury, but if he's injured for the entire week, then Lindgren is likely going to get all of these starts against the Blue Jackets on Monday, against the Blackhawks on Thursday, and against the Penguins on Saturday. So it should be a lot of wins for Lindgren and the Capitals. We will see what happens with Kemper's injury, but definitely keep an eye on Lindgren and maybe add him for the entire week. Then lastly, we have Barrett Hayton of the Arizona Coyotes. The Coyotes have 4 games this week and 3 off nights. Not the easiest schedule, and the Arizona Coyotes are not the best team, but they have been playing really well lately. I think they've won like 6 out of their last 7. Hayton is centering that top line with Nick Schmaltz and Clayton Keller. Keller, I think, has the 2nd most points in the NHL since the All-Star break. So that line is on an absolute heater. I think that he is going to do extremely well. If you're looking at his game log, I expect him to continue this hot streak, and he could put up a lot of fantasy points this week. Now, for the players that you want to add to help you maximize your games this week, all of them are 85% rostered or below, so their availability on the market is going to vary depending on how many teams you have in your league. But these players have a lot of off nights. It's going to be beneficial to drop a guy that only has 3 games this week, that plays Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, that you can't fit into your lineup, for a player on this list. So let's get into it. We have Valeri Nichushkin of the Colorado Avalanche playing in the top 6, and he's playing on the first line power play. So if he is available in your league, you need to add him immediately. And we have Clayton Keller, who has the 2nd most points in the NHL since the All-Star break. He has 4 games and 3 off nights, and I think he is going to do fantastic. He's been playing incredible lately, so really do like him if he is somehow available in a more shallow league, like a 6-team league. Then we have JT Compher and Bowen Byram. JT Compher is on that first line power play with Arturi Lehkonen out with a wrist injury, so this means a lot of opportunities for him this week. Like I've said with this Avalanche schedule, Compher is going to be a beast. I really do think that. Bowen Byram has been really good if you're looking at his stats. He scored a goal yesterday. He gets really good peripherals, and with the Colorado schedule, I expect him to put up some points this week against those teams like Arizona and Chicago. Then with the trend of Arizona and Colorado players, we have Nick Schmaltz, Evan Rodriguez, Barrett Hayton, and Lawson Krause. Nick Schmaltz is on that first line, is back from injury. He is known to put up a lot of points, and that could happen this week, so definitely want to add him if he is available. Then you have Rodriguez, who is seeing more opportunity with Lehkonen out. He's going to get more minutes. He's playing in that top 6 on that first line with Nathan McKinnon, so I think that's very good. Then we have Barrett Hayton. I just talked about him. I think he is going to be incredible this week, centering that first line with Schmaltz and Keller. Definitely want to add him if he is available. And then Lawson Krause. This guy is definitely underrated. His peripherals are great. Then we have Evander Kane, who just scored a hat trick yesterday. He's probably not available in most of your leagues, but if he is in a more shallow league, I definitely would pick him up. If somebody already didn't pick him up today after that hat trick performance, they only have 3 games, but they have 2 off nights as well, and the Oilers have a really easy schedule, so I expect Kane to put up a lot of points. Then we have Samuel Girard, who has been playing good in the last month with an amazing Avalanche schedule. He could be a very good option. And then we have Pittsburgh Penguins players, Rickard Rakell and Jason Zucker. They have 4 games and 2 off nights. Zucker and Raquel have been very good this year, and Raquel's on the first line power play. Zucker puts up amazing peripherals. With the Penguins trying to make a push for the playoffs, I expect them to play really hard and for these guys to put up a decent amount of fantasy points this week. Then we have Juuso Valimaki of the Arizona Coyotes, and I usually don't have a lot of defensemen on this list, but this guy has been playing incredible lately. He has 19 points in his last 20 games. He just had a 3-point night, a goal and 2 assists yesterday. He is playing incredible. Being on that first line power play with Chychrun gone, he's really stepped up, and I think he's going to be an amazing option for maximizing your games with 4 games and 3 off nights. And then we have Evan Bouchard, 2 off nights and a really great schedule on that first line power play. Should be good as well. Now we have more players that could help you maximize your games. These players are likely going to be more available if you are in a league with 10 teams or more. So let's get right into it. At 15, we have Taylor Raddysh of the Chicago Blackhawks with 4 games and 2 off nights. Their opponents are okay. They should do decent this week, and he's getting a lot of good deployment on that first line power play. He had a hat trick a couple of games ago, and he's a good young player, so he could definitely put up some points. Someone has to score on that team, and Raddysh is probably going to be that guy. Then we have Seth Jones, puts up great peripherals, and is on that first line power play. They have an okay schedule, and with 2 off nights, he could be really good for maximizing your games. And then we have Kings players. We have Victor Arvidsson, Philip Deneau, Quinton Byfield, who's playing on the first line right now, and the first line power play. We have Gabriel Velarde and Alex Iafallo. The Kings can score a lot of goals. They only had 3 games this week, but they have 2 off nights, so this could be good for maximizing your schedule and also putting up a lot of fantasy points for the games that they do play in. Then we have Brian Rust, who has been very disappointing this season, but still with 4 games and 2 off nights, that should be an okay option. Then we have Trevor Moore, another Kings player that has been pretty good this season. Then Alex Newhook, who isn't the best option in terms of putting up fantasy points, but in a deeper league, he could be a very good option to stream because they have 4 games and all of them being off nights and also an easy schedule. He could squeeze in maybe a goal or 2 in there. Who knows? Then we have more Chicago Blackhawks players, Lucas Reichel, who has 7 points in 12 games. He has been really good for the games that he's been playing in. So with the schedule of 2 off nights and 4 games, could put up some fantasy points. Then we have Tyler Johnson, who's been pretty consistent lately, so I like that. And then Athanasiou, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's also been decent lately, so could be a decent option. And then lastly, we have Logan O'Connor, a guy that doesn't put up a lot of points, but in a very deep league, this guy could be a great option with Colorado's schedule. Now, I haven't done this in previous week guide videos, but I think this is useful. I know that there's some heavy nights this week on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and even though some of these players don't have great schedules for maximizing your games, they are probably going to put up a lot of fantasy points, and you might want to make some ads involving them. Colorado Avalanche players should be on this list because they have a really good opponent goals against average, but I just talked about them, so you can kind of plug them into this list if you'd like. But I'm just going to read this off rapid fire because we do have a lot of players on this list. We have Jordan Kyrou. They have a 3.31 opponent goals against average, so that's incredible. We have Dylan Larkin, Jamie Benn, Nikolai Ehlers, Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith, Braden Shen, Robert Thomas, Nazem Kadri, Jacob Verana, who's been playing great lately and has a really low roster percentage, so you might be able to pick him up if he's available. Might not be able to fit him into your lineup, but I expect him to do well this week, especially because they play the Red Wings twice. He wants to show the Red Wings why he shouldn't have been traded, so he could put up fantasy points there. Then we have Mikael Backlund, one of the bright spots in this disappointing Flames season. Then at number 12, we have Jonathan Huberdeau. Who would have thought that this guy would be so low on this type of list? But he's actually picking it up lately since being moved back to left wing on the Flames, so definitely could be a good option with their easy opponent goals against average if he is somehow available. Then we have Nino Niederreiter and Blake Wheeler. Wheeler's on that first line power play, and the Jets have an absurd opponent goals against average, so he could put up a lot of points. We have Logan Couture of the San Jose Sharks, who's been one of the Sharks' best players along with Tomas Hertl. Could be a good option with their opponent schedule this week. Now for the rest of this list, these guys might be more available in your deeper leagues. We have Tomas Hertl, TJ Oshie, Dylan Strome, Tom Wilson, Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Nicholas Backstrom. And then we have Dylan Dubé, David Perron, Lucas Raymond, Andrew Mangiapane, Blake Coleman, Max Domi, and Sammy Blais. All of these guys have the potential to put up a lot of points this week, so if you already have them on your team, you might want to consider holding on to them. And in terms of adding them, you might want to do that as well. I know you might not be able to fit them into your lineup, but if you have a worse player that is sitting in your lineup for those heavy nights, these guys could be good replacements. Now for the high-scoring defenseman ads, I know that some of these guys are probably not available in a lot of your leagues, but if you have them on your team, this could be very good for you guys this week and helping you win. we have Rasmus Andersson of the Calgary Flames. Really easy schedule, playing some really bad teams, so definitely could put up a lot of points. Same thing with Evan Bouchard, Rasmus Sandin, Bowen Byram, Samuel Girard, Matthias Ekholm, who just had 3 assists in the game against the Kraken yesterday, so he's been playing really well. That could be a good option. And then lastly, we have Torrey Krug and Justin Falk with a 3.31 opponent goals against average. I expect the Blues to score a lot of goals, and these guys should probably be a part of that. All right, lastly, for the goalie streamers, you might want to add some of these goalies if they are available. I talked about Charlie Lindgren earlier, and this is a question mark because Kemper left with an injury. I don't know the severity of it, but if he's out for the entire week, Lindgren should probably get 2 wins at least with a .44 opponent record. I expect great things from Washington this week. And then we have Ville Husso, Stuart Skinner, Thatcher Demko, Philip Gustafson, Jordan Binnington. I know he hasn't been great this season. He's coming back from a suspension, but they have a really good opponent record, so he could rack in, 2 or maybe even 3 wins. And then we have Jacob Markstrom, who has been playing really great lately. He's getting a lot of volume compared to early on in the season when him and Vladar were splitting. With that opponent record, I expect him to put up a lot of wins. If he's available, definitely look to pick him up. All right, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. I would really appreciate it. Good luck on your week. Good luck in your playoffs, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Like always, have a good one.